This is CBC Here and Now.
I'm Reagan Burden in Happy Valley Goose Bay, where a new MHA will be elected tonight.
I'm Troy Turner, watching a tight race in Grand Falls, Windsor.
I'm Colleen Connors in Corner Brook, where two former city mayors face off.
And I'm Jeremy Eaton in St. John's, filling in. Welcome to Here and Now. If you didn't already know it, today is Election Day. So we're going to get right to it. We're going to kick off our coverage tonight with CBC Radio On the Go host Chrissy Holmes, who has been out and about today visiting polling stations and chatting to voters. Chrissy joins us live now from just outside a polling site in St. John's East, Kitty Vitty at the Lions Club here in St. John's. Chrissy, what have you been hearing and seeing today?
Well, Jeremy, we've heard a lot. We've been keeping a lot of notes based on some of the calls that we've gotten into the newsroom, some of the early reports from voters. I think it's a little bit of a mixed bag. You know, early in the day, we were getting reports about confusion. A couple of voters we heard from had headed to one polling station at Dominion on Lake Avenue to find that there was no registration desk, for example. The, escalator was broken. A little bit later in the day, very similar story that we had heard from another voter who had encountered very similar issues when going to one polling station, was redirected to go to the village, and then, of course, encountered a broken escalator. So at that point, that voter had actually conferred with other voters who were having mobility challenges, so a little bit of frustration. I can tell you, though, that the voters that we've spoken with coming in and out of this particular polling station have really had nothing but positive reviews, in and out pretty quick. In the last little while, traffic certainly has picked up quite a bit, but no doubt still a lot to go here because the polls are still open for just under 2 hours. So a lot at stake here, Jeremy. I mean, for Elections NL, basically it's to avoid the chaos that we saw in the pandemic election of 2021. We know Elections NL under new management. There's new procedures in place, a brand new online, software system to manage all of the information coming in and out as well. There's been enhanced training. And of course, a lot of applied lessons learned from things that went wrong in the last election. The variable that came up in this one, though, of course, was the Canada Post strike. None of the voter cards went out. So right out the gate, there was a possibility for some confusion there. Then there was the whole vote by mail issue, Elections NL having to reimburse people that had to send their votes in, and incur courier expenses to do it, to get it in under deadline. But yeah, for voters, a lot at stake too. The people that we spoke with said, yeah, even if they did have to jump through some hoops, do a little bit extra legwork to figure out where they had to go, a lot of the people said that they felt it was worth it because there's a sense that we've heard from people largely today that there's a lot at stake in this election. And you know what? The people we spoke with, both on and off camera, cited a lot of varied reasons.
Voting in a woman, right? That's all I've been doing all year. I've been voting in women only.
And why is that so important to you?
It's time for the old boys to go. Yeah, things get done when women are in power. And that's, to me, the most important thing. So we'll see what happens.
I think wanting someone in this riding that I knew and I could trust.
I don't think there's any overwhelming issue. There are a whole pile of them, and none of them is particularly more important than the other. I think I agree with Elizabeth. Having an MHA that and trust is, I think, the important thing.
So what we do know is that once the polls close, it will be the special ballot numbers that we're going to see populate the results first. Those have already been counted. And just for context, across Newfoundland and Labrador, just over 20,000 people voted by special ballot. And this district in particular had the most requests for special ballots. And when you think about St. John's East Kitty Vitty, we've got institutional votes like Her Majesty's Penitentiary, the Miller Centre, for example, plus vote by mail. So It's those numbers we're going to see populated first. But once those polling stations cut down, the workers inside are going to have a lot of counting to do, and it is going to be a busy night. Jeremy?
Thanks for that, Chrissy. So we're going to be checking back in with Chrissy later on in the show. But right now, let's head to election night ground zero for the three major political parties in this province. So joining me, we have Heather Gillis at the Liberal headquarters in St. John's, Terry Robert at the Progressive Conservative headquarters in Stephenville, and Mark Quinn reporting live from the NDP HQ in St. John's. Heather, let's start with the Liberal Party. What have you been hearing on their side today?
Well, Jeremy, I really think for the Liberals today, the theme is going to be about power. They're trying to hang on to power after being in government for 10 years now. They first won it back in 2015 with Dwight Ball. He had 2 terms. Then Andrew Furey was premier and won the general election in 2021. Now John Hogan is trying to hang on and secure a 4th mandate now for the Liberal government. He wants a clear mandate, a majority government when he returns back to the House of Assembly. In order to do that, he is going to need 21 of the 40 seats in the House of Assembly. So that's going to be a number a lot of people on either side of any of these campaigns are going to be watching for tonight. But when it comes to power, what is also at stake, the Churchill Falls MOU that the Liberals signed with Quebec for that new hydro agreement, renegotiating it 17 years early. And that's important because this party has made about $130 million in spending promises over the course of the campaign. Things like a 10% cut to electricity bills by removing the provincial portion of the HST, more doctors, more nurses, more police officers as well. And in order to pay for all of these things that the Liberals are promising, well, they say they're going to rely on that Churchill Falls MOU and the revenue they expect to get from it to pay for many of those things as they move towards a final agreement in April. Now, the PCs, they say they want to review that deal, renegotiate it, and possibly send it even to a binding referendum. So that could be at stake when we are talking about power. But John Hogan voted today in the district of Windsor Lake, and that was at the Holiday Inn Hotel here in St. John's. And we asked him about his reflections on how this campaign went after he cast his vote. Here's what he had to say.
I think that our plan is complete and together and forward-looking. You look at the Conservative plan, of course, is that they've decided to cut things like the Future Fund and not look after future generations of this province. And that's important for Newfoundlanders and Labradorians. We've been waiting for this opportunity for decades, and it's right here. And our campaign, I think, has been very positive and forward-looking and looking at all Newfoundlanders and Labradorians.
So if Hogan and the Liberals win this tonight, he says his first priority tomorrow morning is going to go back to the Confederation building and get to work on delivering on the promises that he has made. Now, it's just worthy to mention that we are in downtown St. John's at the Sheraton Hotel in the ballroom here, and this is where Liberals are expected to start trickling in and have a party after the polls close tonight. And they're also hoping to hear a victory speech from their leader, from John Hogan. But of course, that all depends on what happens with the votes tonight with this party and, of course, the PCs as well. And that's where we find Terry Roberts in Stephenville, who will be covering that camp tonight.
Yes, thank you, Heather. I'm at the Days Inn here in Stephenville, where the PCs are looking to emerge from a decade in the political wilderness, I guess you could say. 3 consecutive election losses, and they're coming into Election Day. I would say they're feeling some momentum. You know, they've had a pretty steady, hiccup-free campaign for the most part. They've had some pretty big name endorsements, groups like Trades NL, by-election wins. They've actually got more incumbents than the Liberals, and they're hoping to capitalize on what they believe is some heavy skepticism out there around the Churchill Falls MOU. So Tony Wakeham, the PC leader, he voted here in Kippens this morning at around 10:30 in his home district of Stephenville, Port-au-Port. He's looking for a 3rd mandate as the MHA for this region, and of course he's also looking to become the next premier. So we spoke to him this morning, and he told me and others that he believes that they've run a really good campaign. He has no regrets. He doesn't believe they could have done any more. He feels they got the message out, and that message is about change, and he's feeling that there's a mood out in this province for change. And so I asked him, you know, can the PCs win? And he says expect some surprises tonight, and that he believes that he's ready to deliver on that mood for change. Now, I also asked him about, the feeling he gets from actually casting a ballot, and he was quite philosophical in his answer.
It's nice to be able to take part in this democratic process, and it's not lost on me that we just came out of Thanksgiving Day weekend. You know, the fact that we can stand here today, that I can go in and cast my ballot. A lot of countries in the world are not able to do that, and I think we owe a lot to the people. I always think about, you know, we talk about November 11th, we talk about July 1st, but you know, when you think about all the people, all the soldiers that fought, so we could actually do that today. And I think that's what's important to me, is for everyone in Newfoundland and Labrador, is thank all of those people by going out and actually casting a ballot today, because we had the freedom to do it.
So that was Tony Wakeham sounding, I guess you could say, humble and confident, and it sounds like he's ready for whatever comes tonight. Now, I've spent the last 2 weeks on the campaign trail with the PCs and Tony Wakeham, and you know, you got to wonder, how do you get the measure of a man when you're spending a night at a hotel bar in rural Newfoundland? Well, you challenge him to a game of dartboard killer, and that's exactly what I did Saturday night in Plum Point against Tony Wakeham. He accepted the challenge. I beat him easily in the first game. He responded and beat me in the second game, proving that he can hit a double. Now, we're going to find out later tonight if Tony Wakeham can hit the electoral bullseye and beat John Hogan. I'm going to turn it over now to Mark Quinn at NDP headquarters in St. John's.
And thank you, Terry Roberts. Mark Quinn, of course, here in St. John's, the headquarters of the NDP. We're right on the border of St. John's Centre and St. John's East Quidi Vidi, which are the two of the districts the NDP are hoping to win and one to hold. The NDP has taken this campaign very seriously. They're hoping to expand the number of seats they had. They started with 2 before the election. One of those seats was Jordan Brown's, and he, of course, left to go into municipal politics. They're hoping to keep that seat, that's Labrador West, and they're hoping to win, of course, Jim Dinn's seat here at St. John's Centre, and hoping to expand beyond that. And that's what they've said since the beginning of this campaign, is that they want to actually expand the number of seats they have. Of course, it remains to be seen what will happen tonight. They could end up with 3 seats. They could end up with 1 seat. Of course, it would be a disaster if they had none. But they hope to have at least the 2 that they've had, maintain their party status. They can ask questions in the House. They can continue to be an influential voice in the House, and that's what they want to do. They've said all along the priorities for them have been healthcare, housing, and the affordability crisis. So a lot of the policies that they've talked about are policies that target those issues. They were the first party to put a fully costed platform, and they did run a full slate of 40 candidates. So they clearly took this campaign very seriously, and they intend to hopefully expand the number of seats they have. Mr. Jim Dinn was in much of the St. John's area for this campaign, this 4-week campaign. He did go to Labrador, but they really focused on this St. John's area where they expect to hold those 2 seats, have those 2 seats here in this area. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks for that, Mark. Now, as you can see, we have you covered here on Election Day. And just a note, when this newscast ends, we're going to have a live special talking all about the results as they come in. Now, switching to other news, the RCMP say a missing woman has been found dead. The 62-year-old woman was reported missing Saturday afternoon. Clarenville RCMP say her body was found yesterday by the police force's underwater recovery team. Police have offered no further information on this incident, but are thanking Riverbend Heavy Towing and the Triple Bay Eagles Ground Search and Rescue for their support. There have been guilty pleas entered to workplace safety charges related to a fatal explosion at the Come By Chance refinery more than 3 years ago. Rob Antle has the details.
An explosion ripped through the Come By Chance refinery on the Friday before Labor Day in 2022. 8 workers were seriously injured. One of them, Sean Peddle of Clarenville, died in hospital 6 weeks later. Last summer, workplace safety charges were laid against 2 companies, the refinery's operator, Brea Renewable Fuels, and a contractor at the site, Lorneville Mechanical. A trial spanning more than 2 months was supposed to begin at Provincial Court in Clarenville Tuesday morning, but that didn't happen. Instead, the companies changed their pleas. Brea pleaded guilty to a single count of failing to ensure that safe work procedures were followed. Lorneville also pleaded guilty to a single count. Other charges were conditionally withdrawn by the Crown. The case will now return to Provincial Court in Clarenville next month for facts and sentencing and victim impact statements. Rob Antle, CBC News, St. John's.
The jury has entered the deliberation stage in the trial of 24-year-old Robert Belbin. Belbin is accused of second-degree murder in the death of his friend Seamus Secord. He was charged in February 2023 following an incident near Newtown Road in St. John's. The two got into a fight with a knife, which led to Secord dying from several stab wounds. The defense argues that Belbin acted in self-defense. The jury began deliberations about an hour ago, just after 5 p.m., and if they can't come to a decision by 8 p.m. tonight, they will be sequestered for the evening and resume again tomorrow. Cheers and tears greeted the return of 3 activists to St. John's today. Nikita Stapleton, Sadie Meese, and Devani Ellis were detained by Israeli forces while part of a humanitarian mission to Gaza. Here now, Zach Gowdy was there as they arrived back home.
Lots of energy and lots of emotion at St. John's Airport today as Sadie Meese, Nikita Stapleton, and Devani Ellis arrived back in St. John's safely. The 3 activists were just released from an Israeli prison, having been detained at sea last week.
Describe the conditions inside the Israeli prison.
So the reason we joined this project was to bring attention to Palestine, and so we aren't currently going to speak to our experiences in the prison. We just want people to pay attention to Palestine and what's happening there right now.
Free, free Palestine! They were on board a ship called the Conscience, which was part of a flotilla delivering aid, doctors, and journalists to the Palestinian territory of Gaza. Israel has been imposing a blockade on Gaza for years now. They were trying to get through when the Conscience was stopped by Israeli forces, and all aboard were detained then. While the activists left St. John's expecting to be detained, it was still a very trying time for their families back home.
Just anxious to see her. It's been a long time. It's been lots of sleepless nights, lots of stress, so it's finally good to have her home. We had a lot of talk with Sadie. She told us about what to expect, but it was very frightening. We didn't know. And then once that happened, she was gone for 4 days. We didn't hear from her at all. And we haven't heard from her until she got released in Jordan. So this will be the first time we get to see her and talk to her.
Friends and fellow activists have been worried too, but said the participation of these 3 in the flotilla has changed how people in this part of the world see the Israeli-Palestinian conflict.
Their impact caused a lot of people to really pay attention and to look. There were so many people that I had met when I talked about this that did not even know that there was a flotilla or what the flotilla was or what even was their mission. It really motivated a lot of people to actually pay attention and to start acting, and I'm so grateful for that.
What's next for you 3 now that you're back in St. John's?
We're going to keep fighting. There's an arms embargo town hall coming up in the next little while. We hope to see some more faces there.
Devani Ellis, Nikita Stapleton, and Sadie Meese saying they may be home, but they are as committed to their cause as the day they left. Zach Gowdy, CBC News, St. John's.
Back to our election coverage now. With a number of MHAs no longer running, there are some districts that will have a new MHA regardless of who wins. Lake Melville is one of those districts. Reagan Burden joins us live there now from Happy Valley Goose Bay. What can you tell us about that race?
Good evening, Jeremy. So here in Lake Melville, we're here on the ground in Happy Valley Goose Bay. We've got 3 candidates running. Former PC MHA Keith Russell trying to get that title again, go back to the House of Assembly. He was voted out in 2015 to Perry Trimper, who's been the MHA here for the last 10 years. We've got a first-time runner going up for the Liberal Party, Sean McLean. Sean's been known to many in the community for working with the Libra House, the Women's Shelter here, or Melville Native Housing Association. The NDP's candidate, Jamie Ruby, not based here in Lake Melville, but has had some NDP volunteers knocking on doors. It's going to be a pretty interesting race to watch here in Lake Melville. And of course, a lot of people on the ground, voters, looking at, the MOU, Churchill Falls, the housing situation here is tight for voters. It's a lot for people to be keeping their eyes on, and right now things are looking slow here, but later this evening, this is where the PC candidate Keith Russell is going to be watching the votes come in, so things will certainly be picking up a little bit later when the polls close. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks for that, Reagan. Now, let's move to central Newfoundland. Now, Troy Turner is in Grand Falls, Windsor tonight watching what could be a tight race. Troy, there were some tense moments between the Liberal candidate and the PC incumbent during this campaign.
Yeah, it's been an interesting one for sure. Of course, their Liberal candidate here is Barry Manuel. He's a longtime councillor, spent the last 10 years as mayor, so he's taking on the incumbent Progressive Conservative Chris Tibbs. Now, it got a little interesting, of course, in their public debate last week. So Chris Tibbs has been the MHA here for 6 years, very popular, especially through social media. And anyway, Chris told me that in his spare time and his holiday time, he often works in Alberta. Now, Manuel has basically said that Chris Tibbs is not a full-time MHA. That reached a boiling point at a recent debate where Tibbs basically called Manuel a liar and started talking about Manuel's family. They traded barbs for a few minutes, and then it reached a boiling point where Tibbs, at the podium, was confronted by Manuel, who got up out of his seat. The broadcast of the debate stopped for about 9 minutes and then continued after that. Still, there were barbs thrown, but it didn't reach that level. So that's safe to say, no love lost there between the two. Of course, the NDP is also represented here, and it's Liz Noseworthy running for that party. She is a home care worker and a longtime volunteer, so should be interesting in Grand Falls, Windsor, Buckins.
Thanks for that, Troy. Now we're going to go from center to west and off to Corner Brook, another district that will have a new MHA going to the House of Assembly tonight. Now, the Liberal incumbent is not running, but 2 former mayors of Corner Brook are, and they're among the candidates on the ballot. Colleen Connors joins us live tonight. Colleen, what can you tell us about that race?
Hi, Jeremy. I'm here at the Liberal headquarters where there's volunteers kind of tucked around every corner making those last-minute phone calls, trying to get voters out before the polls close at 8 o'clock. And of course, like you said, it has been long-term red in Corner Brook for the past decade with Jerry Byrne in that seat. And of course, change is coming, though, even though Corner Brook has been red for quite some time. And you're right, we've got 2 former mayors running here in Corner Brook. Jim Parsons has been the mayor for the past 8 years, and PC candidate Charles Pender, well, he's been on council and has roles at times as mayor over the past 2 decades. But the thing is, these 2 don't really get along. And of course, in 2023, during a council meeting, then Mayor Parsons had Pender removed from a council meeting over a big dispute over code of conduct. So needless to say, these 2 don't really speak much. Also, there was a lot of voter confusion at the door because in early June, Parsons was then running for mayor. He launched his campaign, but then decided to switch to the provincial election. So, a lot of explaining happening at the doors. And, both Pender and Parsons are hearing at the door. The issues for this area, of course, are more housing, better housing, more family doctors, and a lot shorter wait times at that new hospital that's here in Corner Brook. Now, another district to watch, of course, is Humber-Gross-Moor. And so that's that large district that includes Deer Lake, Gross-Moor National Park, that's been held by two former premiers, Dwight Ball and most recently Fury. Of course, that PC candidate for there is Mike Guzny. He's taken another go at it. He went up against Fury in 2020. He also ran for the NDP in 2015. So his signs are all over the area, and he's hoping to take that one against Liberal candidate Helen Reid. Now, Helen is a longtime volunteer, big career in healthcare, doting mother, doting grandmother, who really hopes to keep that area red and keep it Liberal. And we'll have to watch that one to see what happens because, of course, you know, it's recently went blue in the federal riding of Long Range Mountains when Carol Anstey took it. So that one is definitely one to watch tonight. Back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks for that, Colleen. Now we're going to have more election coverage from the rest of Here and Now, as well as our special that's going to start at 7, and then when the results come in at 8, 7:30 in most parts of Labrador. Now coming up after the break, we're going to have the weather with Ashley Brauweiler. It's time for a look at the weather now. We'll bring in Ashley Brauweiler. Ashley, it's been nice the last couple of days, but I noticed some clouds rolling in. So what can we expect to see in the coming days?
Yeah, so pretty much the end of the sunshine, let's just say that, moved in a little earlier this afternoon, especially along the northeast coast. But it was a beautiful day for most areas. Let's take a look at those daytime highs this afternoon. The hot spot was Deer Lake at 18 degrees today. Corner Brook topped out at 16, and then even up across Labrador, an absolutely beautiful day. 17 degrees in Makkovik, 18 in Happy Valley Goose Bay. Now, pretty much that will be the end of it. Those single digits along the northeast coast really will be the rule. Between 7 to 9 degrees today is the daytime highs in St. John's. And like I said, we did see quite a bit of cloud cover, and that's because we've got an area of low pressure offshore that is inching closer and really will be what will give us the rain, drizzle, and fog as we head through the middle of next week. Generally looking at those clouds on the increase as we head through the night tonight as well, thanks to that disturbance to the west, and you can see that moving in now. So the ridge of high pressure definitely won't be in play. And along the northeast coast, like I said, the cloud cover moved in a little earlier today, even seeing a little bit of drizzle associated with that. And really that will be the story as we continue through the night. This has been really what we've been looking at for most of the afternoon. And there will be a whole lot more of that, especially as we head through the night tonight. Most of us will see those clouds move in through the overnight with some patchy drizzle and some patchy fog as well by the time we get into the early part of tomorrow morning, really across the board. Now, western portions of Labrador, it's going to be a little bit chilly for you tonight, only hovering around 1 degree. So the chance of some showers or even some flurries in the mix there. And then the rest of the province essentially sitting somewhere between 3 and 6 degrees overnight tonight. Note those north winds that really along the northeast coast, that's what's going to lead to some cooler temperatures and along with that rain, drizzle, and fog. But overall 20 to 40 kilometer per hour winds expected as we head through the night tonight. Into tomorrow, a whole lot more of that. You're going to get sick of me saying that, I'm sure, over the next couple of days. But tomorrow will generally just be cloudy, some patchy fog, some patchy drizzle in the mix as well. And then we're also looking at some showers or flurries in parts of Lab West through the afternoon. That will be where most of the unsettled weather will be through the day. You may even see some showers along the south western portion of the island. And then as we head through the overnight into Thursday, that's when we'll start to see more of the rain in the mix. So daytime highs tomorrow, cooler than today, that's for sure. Along the northeast coast, you are looking at your temperatures in the single digits. Northerly winds will be gusting somewhere between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. The rest of the island portion of the province will see between 10 to 12 or even 13 degrees as daytime highs. And then for Labrador, overall, other than the single digits for the west and the southeast, temperatures will be between 10 to 11 degrees through the afternoon. As we look ahead to Thursday, then we'll start to see some more rain in the mix, especially up parts of Labrador, but overall generally cloudy, maybe a few peaks of sun for the western portion of the island. But that is about it. And daytime highs really not going to move a whole lot from what you're seeing here in the next week or so. Along the northeast coast, 5 to 9 degrees, otherwise 10 to 12 as your daytime highs. And then as we look ahead to Friday, this is really when we'll see some periods of rain in the mix, pretty much island-wide and, well, really province-wide through the afternoon and evening. And overall, your daytime highs, again, not moving a whole lot, single digits. Now along the south coast, temperatures a little warmer. You're away from that onshore flow between 13 to 14 degrees. There's your long-range forecast. Rain will continue into Saturday. It looks like more drizzle and fog on Sunday, but 9 to 10 degrees is your daytime highs for St. John's and eastern Newfoundland. Central and western, pretty much a carbon copy forecast. Again, more drizzle, though, as we end the week. And then up across Labrador, overall single digits. Some flurries in the mix Saturday and Sunday for eastern Labrador. And then for western Labrador, you're looking at some showers for the weekend. Our weather photo of the day taken along the Gander River there. Take a beautiful shot of the calm blue sky. Donnie, thank you for that. If you have any weather photos you'd like to share with us, send them to nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Welcome back to Here and Now. We're a little over an hour away from polls closing for the provincial election, so let's head back to Stephenville now, where the CBC's Terry Roberts is at the the Progressive Conservatives headquarters. Terry, what's happening there now in Stephenville?
Well, Jeremy, there's not a whole lot happening here right now. It's pretty quiet. We got mostly journalists here and technical people, and we got some PC staffers here who are looking on, just feeling us out here, making sure we're doing okay. And anyway, we want to talk about the campaign. Running a campaign in Newfoundland and Labrador is challenging. It's a big province geographically, 40 districts. So right here with us here tonight, we have the man himself, Steve Outhouse. Steve Outhouse, campaign manager for the Progressive Conservative Party. I want to know, what was your strategy coming in here? What did you have to do?
Yeah, well, the goal in any campaign is obviously to win and to get that majority government. So we were looking to move from 14 seats up to 21. I mean, that's the goal, and we'll see later tonight if we've hit that or not. It's up to the people now. But in that process, you look at what seats are most likely and where you think you can, make the inroads with your candidates and where the support is already stronger, and you target and get your leader in there and get your candidates at the door. So it's really about sort of, making your targets and getting out there and connecting with people.
And this is, running a campaign is expensive. I imagine that was one of your biggest challenges. Tell us about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, it's a challenge. I mean, it's for people to give their money to political campaigns. I mean, there's they have, with cost of living so high and so on, getting that and getting donations can be a challenge. And certainly the Liberals have been in power for about 10 years. So I mean, they have that sort of fundraising base that perhaps we don't have as the opposition. So we really had sort of a leaner budget for sure, a smaller team, but we worked really hard and we had a really dedicated crew of people, and I think we were able to kind of maximize the budget we had to have the biggest impact possible.
Now you've got your tentacles is all over this country when it comes to campaigns. You've run campaigns in New Brunswick, Alberta, Ottawa. You've run campaigns here in Newfoundland and Labrador. Yeah. What's it like campaigning here in this province versus other provinces?
Yeah, well, I mean, this is the only province, I think, with 2 time zones in it, for one. But geography is one of the big things. And certainly, getting the leader out and about and trying to get them into as many districts as possible, that's a sprawl, like, especially when we're out and making sure that rural Newfoundland and Labrador knows that, we want to stand up for their interests and their needs. That takes a lot of travel. That takes a lot of time. That's a lot of time on the road. And, the geography with a lot of, smaller communities sort of spread out all over the province. That's one of the big logistical challenges of campaigning in Newfoundland and Labrador.
You didn't get to all 40 districts. How do you make that decision, which ones to skip?
Well, I mean, we tried, even in the lead up to the campaign. I mean, the leader was traveling around and getting into different districts. And so, certainly you want to try to get to all 40. It's the goal. Within a 28-day period, time becomes a limiting factor, and certainly Labrador is the biggest challenge because flights in and out, and the people in Labrador can talk about that far more eloquently than I can. But getting up into certainly some of the more far-flung areas within Labrador is a challenge, and so you do start to we were actually looking at going into Cartwright Lanticlair there in the final days, and as we were going there, the ferry was shut down, kind of indefinitely. So that kind of limited our ability to get in, and we, changed plans.
All right, Steve Outhouse, thanks for your availability this evening.
Hey, thanks, Terry.
All
Take
right.
care.
That was Steve Outhouse. He's the campaign manager for the Progressive Conservatives in the 2025 general election. Jeremy, back to you.
Thanks for that, Terry. Turning now from Stephenville to downtown St. John's, where Mark Quinn is standing by at NDP headquarters. Mark, how do party supporters there feel about tonight?
Well, Jeremy, I'm here with the press secretary for the NDP's campaign, Stephanie Curran, and I wanted to ask her, what's it taken to get to this point? It's been a month-long campaign. It's a lot of work. Talk about what you've had to do.
Well, it's been over a month for the NDP. We started doing announcements from our platform 2 weeks before the writ drop because we knew that it was coming. It's been a lot of hard work. We wanted to prove to the people of this province that we are ready to form government, that Jim Dinn is absolutely ready to be premier. We released our fully costed platform well before the debate, unlike the other parties, which showed the people of this province that we are keeping in mind the fiscal responsibility and the reality that we're living in, while also addressing issues that people are facing every day, whether it's our NL Homes plan with the creation of 1,000 homes publicly owned per year, depending on who needs it the most across the province, whether it's hiring 1,000 healthcare workers, whether it's removing the HST off home heating, something that Jim Dinn has been advocating for since 2023. We really wanted to show people of this province that we keep them in our thoughts always. Everything we do is for them and to get them a better deal.
How's the NDP different from the other parties that are running in this election?
I think New Democrats are the underdog in this province. We're different. I think that we have to work a lot harder. Of course, our main message in our campaign this time around was banning corporate and union donations. We launched whopaidforthebus.ca, which showed the Liberal corporate donations, and I think money buys a lot of visibility. But what we have is a group of hardworking New Democrats that are just focused on making sure that New Democrats are in the House, because we know that they are loud and they stand up for the people that they represent.
What do you hope to see at the end of tonight, where the NDP stands?
I would love to at least remain 2 seats in the House. I had the ability to go up to Labrador with Jim at the beginning of this campaign, and Shazia Razi is such a wonderful candidate for Labrador West, following in the footsteps of Jordan Brown. I would love to see her elected. And I would also love to see other districts. You know, Mount Sion is one that I'm watching closely, Waterford Valley. I think if anything, what we will see is the turnout for the NDP will be higher than it normally is.
Well, thank you so much, Stephanie. You've been a great help to us during this campaign. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you. And back to you, Jeremy.
Thanks for that, Mark. The CBC's Mark Quinn live from Gower Street Church. Now we turn to the other end of downtown St. John's, where the Liberal Party has set up camp at the Sheraton Hotel. And that's where our CBC's Heather Gillis is standing by. Heather, I understand you've been speaking with some Liberal power players about how they're feeling tonight.
We have indeed, and of course we have the Liberal Party President Ashley Powerstack with us here to talk a little bit about how the campaign has gone. So Ashley, thank you for being with us, and tell us a little bit about how you think the campaign has gone.
Hi Heather, thanks for having me. I think first and foremost, I just want to say that, you know, we've just finished Thanksgiving, and I'm so thankful that we live in a province, in a country that values democracy and that every vote counts. It's a very exciting night for Newfoundland and Labrador. We're very excited as Liberals across the province to get out the vote. There's still time here on the island. Polls are open until 8 o'clock, 7:30 in Labrador. If you need a ride, if you still have time to vote, please get out and make sure that you understand that every vote counts.
And we've seen that in so many elections, and most recently as well with the federal election, where that went to a really tight recount. But the Liberal Party is trying to secure a 4th term here with a 3rd leader. You know, what's at stake here tonight for the Liberal Party?
Well, for us, you know, we've heard from voters all across the province about the main issues. One is fiscal responsibility, public safety, health care. We have lots to work on. We're very excited to be able to secure a solid mandate to work on these things for the future of our province, for our kids, for our grandkids.
And if the Liberals are returned to government after the polls close and all the votes are counted tonight, what do you think it is about the campaign and the message that your team had that would resonate with voters?
Well, our slogan has been real energy, real momentum, and we're very excited to have John Hogan at the helm to bring the MOU and bring definitive agreements to the province, secure that set of cash flows that we need to continue to build and support our healthcare system, to support public safety, to create jobs, to overall diversify our economy, de-risk through diversification, through additional cash flows. We're just really excited to have John Hogan at the helm. He's the real leader that we need, the leader of the moment, the leader for our future.
And, you know, during the federal election, like I just mentioned a moment ago, we did see some Conservatives make gains, especially in this province. What kind of challenges has the party experienced during this election as you try to return a majority government to the House of Assembly?
Well, we've had lots of conversations all across the province, and overwhelmingly what we've heard is that we need a real leader. We need John Hogan at the helm. He has got the expertise, he's got everything he needs in his team to be able to ensure that the future of Newfoundland and Labrador is prosperous.
All right, Ashley Powerstack, President of the Liberal Party of Newfoundland and Labrador, thank you so much for joining us here this evening.
Thanks, Heather.
Jeremy, we're going to sign off here from the Sheraton, reporting live in St. John's. I'm Heather Gillis.
Well, that about does it for Here and Now tonight. But up next, our election night pre-show, Newfoundland and Labrador Votes 2025. That's hosted by Carolyn Stokes. David Cochran might be downstairs as well. That's going to be live from the Here and Now studio all night long as the results start pouring in. But first, here's a blast from elections past. In September of 1975, the CBC brought in some new technology for election night, and our cameras were there. Good night.
There's something about elections that challenges every newsman, technician, and organizer in radio and television. It almost seems that the event and the industry were made for each other. One provides an avalanche of information. The other feels a compulsive need to gather, interpret, and broadcast that information in seconds. For election 75, people and equipment were gathered from half a dozen places in Canada. To get the election personalities, cameras were set up at three-party headquarters in St. John's. Those instant reactions to victory or defeat are fed back to the studio by microwave. Here, the interviews are mixed with numbers, and the winning and losing statistics suddenly come to life. The numbers start in the polling booths. After the ballots are counted, they're phoned by the returning officers to the Chief Electoral Officer in St. John's. From there, they are relayed to the studio by high-speed teletype. Here, the people and the machines take over. In typical CBC fashion, top billing for the show went to a computer. But in the rush of returns on election night, the real stars were the people.
Now, here's the result just starting to come in now. Yes. So let's just follow the flow and see exactly how it goes as it comes now from the Chief Returning Officer to CBC St. John's. Okay.
Now the next person, what does he do?
The next person is what is called the flow controller. He controls the flow of results into the computer and also into the electoral decision mechanism. And he is checking right now to make sure that the return that has just come in from the Chief Electoral Office is indeed one that is bigger than we have had before, because mistakes can be made. They can be made here, they can be made any place. But this is his job. He controls the flow. Now,
and what's next?
Okay, at this point he splits his material and sends it two ways. And the young lady on the, what they call a cathode ray tube or a videocom, is actually transmitting the material into the computer. And the other man here is what we call the decision desk. And he is looking at those returns, and by a mathematical formula, which is rather complicated, and I don't think we could probably have time to go into it, but he is computing how much in the lead a particular candidate is, and with the number of polls that have come in, whether indeed that candidate, the projection of his votes can result in him being elected.
What do you think is the purpose in predicting an election so quickly in the evening?
Well, this is where you get into some schools of thought. It's nice to have a horse race, but when the material is available, why leave it lying there?
Yes.
You see, with the computer, this is the first time in Newfoundland a computer has been used for an election by any broadcast or any print media, newspaper, you name it. It's been used very successfully in other provinces and also in the federal election. The fact that the material can come in and be analyzed and distributed by computer saves the old system of where you would have people with tally boards, as we've seen in past elections on CBNT, with the various tally boards up there and people putting chalk marks up and things like that. It's simply a faster method of analyzing the available information.
A technological help, in other words.
That's right. A computer does not predict an election. Let me make that one point very clear. A computer does not predict an election. A computer can only take the material that is put into it, and then it's human beings, the human beings such as you see here, who analyze that and use their brain power, the logical brain power of the human mind, to be able to make this type of prediction and projection.
Where does the information go once it's been predicted or dealt with by this man here?
Well, let's go back one step, and we saw it going into the computer. Now, the computer is located about 45 feet behind me, and maybe we can just go down there and take a look at it.
Yes, do let's. Now, Lloyd, what does this computer do?
All right, we saw the material being inputted, as they call it, and it's put in a very abbreviated form. It does not, for example, tell you what party is there. But the computer has been programmed earlier to identify a name with a party. So as the results come in from the 51 districts, the computer does a number of things. First of all, it takes that very sparse information and puts it out in a series of reports that can be read on air, on radio, or put on the screen in television. And we'll come to that in just a minute. The computer also takes the 51 districts and sees who is leading in each of the 51 districts, and then makes a composite and says, all right, in the province at this point in time, one party is leading in so many seats, second party is leading in so many seats, third party, and so forth. Something it does just like that, at the speed of light.
Although the results come in faster with every election, it's still a pretty exciting show. But the audience and the charged-up broadcasting crew should enjoy it while they can. For the day will certainly come when each ballot, when it's marked, will be registered on a giant central computer. 5 seconds after the polls close, it will spill out the complete election results, and in 10 seconds it will be all over.
Tonight, 3 party leaders, each pitching their own plan for the future. The fate of Churchill Falls caught in the crosshairs. The centerpiece of the Liberal Party platform, a multi-billion-dollar hydro deal with Quebec.
After decades of being shortchanged, we are on the cusp of finally turning that page.
The Progressive Conservatives determined to write that next chapter.
I will not rubber stamp a bad deal that sends the benefits of our resources to Quebec for another 50 years.
While New Democrats hope voters choose them to balance the accounts.
Calculators for Mr. Wakeham and Mr. Hogan.
This as voters grapple with a cost of living crisis, a broken healthcare system, and concern over public safety. It all comes down to this. Tonight, Newfoundland and Labrador votes. Well, good evening and welcome to Newfoundland and Labrador Votes, live from our CBC studio in St. John's. I'm Carolyn Stokes. There is just 1 hour left until polls close. It all comes down to this. Parties are getting those last few voters to the polls.